ColorVO series that I've been doing for several months, and then I stopped for a while and been absent for a minute. And I'm like, okay, this is a great way to close out season 6 is to talk to Erikka J. She is a singer, songwriter, and voice actor that's currently living in Atlanta. And as a professional voice talent, her clients include notable names such as Google, Apple News Plus, Facebook, and even a spot during the Super Bowl for Funky Buddha. She's also a product manager, like she's multi-talented, y'all. She's a product manager for automotive data analytics software. And if this wasn't enough, she also is raising 2 teenage sons. She's doing the most. And I'm not mad at her. This is why we're friends. We have so much in common. Please give it up for Ms. Erikka J.
Ooh, thank you. Give it up. Thank you, Doree. So
I like
happy to
do
be
the
here.
real clap. I don't do the sound effects. So welcome, Erikka. Thanks for coming through. It's interesting. Erikka and I have lived in many of the same places. Obviously, you could see if you're watching that we're not in the same place, but not at the same time. So she lives in Atlanta now. I used to. She's lived in Virginia. Now I do. And, I think that we met during one of my VO live chats on Twitter. And then I discovered that she was a member of a major Facebook group for Voiceover that I am also active in as well. And so now here we are.
Here we are. Finally, we both hard people to catch up with because we're both busy working women.
Yes. And mamas.
And mamas. Oh my goodness.
Single
Yes.
mom is no joke, but it's like you can do it all if you want to. I just say maybe not all at once, because like sometimes I'll be on other people's podcasts, they'll introduce me like I introduced you, and I'll have all these titles and people will be like, wait a minute, she does 5 things? No, I don't do all 5 all the time. It's like a progressive thing, but I do think you can have it all, maybe just not doing it all the time. So
yeah, agreed.
Anyway, let's first start with the voiceover stuff. Tell us about your journey into voiceover.
Oh man, yeah, it's always funny because I was so green when I started. So as you mentioned, I started in music was sort of my first creative foray and been singing forever. But at the time, I was working for the government as an IT project manager, and then also working in a corporate band and doing my own music, writing my own music, putting it out, doing videos, putting it on iTunes, all of that. So the band income was really financing my independent music. So that way my job, I was a single mom at the time, that was just covering that. So I had a friend that I knew through music, and he had said he had just left the studio and did a voiceover. And I'm like, what's that? Like I had no clue what it was or even that people get paid for that. So he told me a little bit and told me about the studio, and I start calling studios, and like everybody's like, who are you? No, because I just didn't know. And then I was actually supposed to be in a musical at the time, and the performance and the show unfortunately had to be canceled because the showrunner got sick. But we had been doing some acting training. So the girl that I worked with, she was a graduate of VCU's theater program, and I asked her about a demo, and she pointed me to a studio in Richmond that I still work with today. They were so gracious to me, and they did a demo for me for way lower than I would find anywhere else, but they directed me through it, gave me the copy. I mean, she said copy, and I didn't know what that meant. Like, that's how green I was. So they really walked me through, and ever since then, I started using the Googles and the internets and finding my way. And that was about 5 years ago. Yeah, now over the past, the pandemic really gave me some, not even necessarily time, but some energy and spunk to go even deeper into the research. And that's how I found the VO community. And that's when my career really kind of took off.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to like show y'all something right quick because y'all just saw her. Let me do this right quick. Go back to the 2 view and show y'all something. Okay.
No. Are we headphone twins?
I can't even mess up the bun right now, but look. Okay. I don't use nothing but these. Okay. Listen, when you get into voiceover and podcasting and all that, y'all, you just like accumulate so much gear, but you got your favorites. Even if you have like, I have the microphone that you see Erikka with, I have that above out of view. And then I also have this one, and they're both recording because I'm just like, I'm freaking out. Like I got to make sure that y'all hear me.
Oh man, like, I'm at like 10 plus pair of headphones. And these are the Audio Technica MX50, whatever. I think I switch up the X, but I have like 3 or 4 pairs of this type. I have the purple ones, the black ones, the red ones. Like, it's terrible. I'm so
Yeah.
addicted.
If you're friends with Erica on Facebook, then you know this because she will periodically post and say, look what I got, y'all. Amazon came or whatever, Sweetwater, you know.
Oh God. It's so much gear, and yeah, it's bad. It's an addiction.
Look, we're not mad. I mean, obviously, in order to get into voiceover, you can't necessarily like buy all the things. You got to
Yeah,
start wherever you start, just like you said with your demo and
yeah,
it being very, very inexpensive, but it was a start. So, when people talk to us about getting into it, I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people, giving them advice as well as I have.
yeah,
And it's like, start small. Don't worry about having to spend big money on all these fancy pants, shotgun mics and all this other stuff, because then you'll never get started. What if you actually, like, perish the thought, what if you actually find this is not for you and you've
yeah,
spent thousands of dollars on all this equipment and you're trying to
yeah,
get rid of it?
yeah,
So, it's no, there's no shame in like small beginnings and starting small, maybe not having all the best of everything. Like, just get into it, figure out where you fit in.
yeah. And even that, is like, I mean, I'm just like, a gear person anyway. So I just like buying a bunch of stuff and spending all my money on audio equipment. But, for one, like, I already had a home studio because I was a songwriter and recording my own songs. So I already had kind of made that investment and it made sense for me. But, I was in the closet and it's Pride Month. I was in the closet
Yeah.
until literally like maybe a month ago. And then, I got the studio bricks, but I haven't even taken my closet down yet because really it sounded great. So
That's
it's
where I
like,
am right now. That's why
I,
y'all see the sheet.
and I'm like, there's a, yeah, like this is a 416, but I have that D2 as a backup, and it was like $170, and that's a really decent like shotgun mic. I mean, you can get a good setup to get started for $500. Um, and what you really want to spend your money on anyway is the training, and like you said, making sure that this is even for you, because this is not a low investment
Uh-uh.
um,
Nope.
career. So you definitely don't want to blow the bank to start before you're making money to for the ROI to make sense.
Yeah. So, like you just mentioned, you're a singer, and I'd love to know, for those of us, because I'm totally not a singer, I have no advice to give on this whatsoever. Except like when I'm in the car, I'm getting it when I'm in the car. Can't nobody tell me
Hey.
nothing. But for real, how has being a singer helped you with voiceover?
Oh man. It's one of those catch 22s where the training still is very important because it gave me a leg up in the ways that I already knew how to self-record. I already had a home studio before the pandemic. Already I learned a heck of a lot more about audio being in voiceover than music, but I had some foundation. I sort of understood how to use my voice to communicate certain emotions, because I'm also a communication major, such a human communication nerd. And that was sort of my thing on stage, was that I was like, I am channeling a feeling, not through the words, but through the way that I'm singing. And that was my personal style. So that was a benefit. But I had to be careful because singers can easily get very sing-songy in voiceover and kind of and it sounds too the non-announcery is the read, right? And it's easy
Yes,
to start sounding announcery.
conversational, like you're
Yeah.
talking to a friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's really easy to fall out of that conversational if you get into your music mind and get too melodic. So it's a balance. So there's a benefit, but you have to be careful too. It doesn't mean you automatically just get, yeah, you'll be great at voiceover in our training. No.
Yeah. Yeah, you listen to all these people out here talking about, "Oh, yeah, I never had a coach," and I'm like, "Okay, all
Okay.
right, to each his or her own," because honestly, we all come from different backgrounds and stuff, but to say that, my bottom line is to say that you cannot improve, even
Yeah.
if you are booking, that you have no room for improvement and that you never
Yes.
need a coach. I mean,
Right.
hello, all of the most famous athletes that we know have coaches.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, and
Yep.
they're making millions.
Yep,
Uh,
singers too. I mean, anything where when you're doing something as a profession, there's going to be some sort of training and training maintenance involved, right? And if what I've really been kind of getting into lately is voiceover. It's easy to just get stuck in the voice part. And yes, it's acting. and there's that, and then there's the technical aspect. But also you have to understand business. Making sure that you're reaching your ROI with all the investments that you're making, and you have to understand that this is advertising. This is marketing. That's the industry that you're working in, and advertising and marketing change at the drop of a hat. And if you're not training and don't understand the current trends, you're gonna fall behind.
Besides, having some of the same gear and being single moms and all these other things, another thing that we have in common is that we both do VO and work in corporate America.
Yeah.
We both do that, and
Mhm.
it's a thing. We love commercials, that's great, but there's lots of money to be made in other areas as well. And I remember talking to you on the phone a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how, Black girls are not brought up being encouraged to be in STEM fields,
Yeah.
which is, if you're not familiar with the acronym, it's science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I did live in Atlanta, I had my daughter. She was much younger then. She just graduated a few days ago. I'm just like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I
And I
saw.
think about the journey. And when she was like in the fourth, fifth grade, I homeschooled her until she got out of that particular district or whatever. And I
Yeah.
got her into a charter school. But when I was homeschooling, I said my strengths also is about communication, spelling, English, even social studies, but not so much all of the STEM fields.
Yeah.
And so I actually paid for her to go to this there's actually, and this is like a not a promotion or anything, this is just me telling my story.
Yeah.
We went to a place called Living Science in Woodstock, Georgia, and they're Christian based, and I want to say 3 or 4 days a week they have different classes, and I brought her to those because I wanted her to be taught by people that really understand those STEM fields, and I knew that was not my forte.
Yeah.
And this is years ago, before the rest of the world had to be thrust upon with homeschooling. So I invested in that for her. Um, and when I think about it these days, I rarely get to work with women. I'm in the IT field, and I rarely get to work with Black women at my job. I get to work with people of color. I get to work with people that are from India and China and things like that, but not Black women.
Yeah.
So I want to be very clear that I'm not talking about all people of color. I'm talking about Black women.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a second about like the joys and challenges of that aspect, working in corporate America while also doing VO,
Yeah.
being, a Black woman in tech while also pursuing the creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's a lot. I love it personally because my brain just wants to go all kinds of different directions, and I need the stimulation for all of it. I mean, I love being a creative. I love being able to come up with new ideas and execute them and play around. And it helps me to be less afraid to fail. And I feel like I have to learn that lesson every day, but it keeps that muscle strong when I create. Um, but I really, I'm very left brain too in type A. So like I love to be able to exercise that in the corporate world. I have the stability, so it makes me a little bit more ambitious and aggressive in my business strategy for VO. And it keeps me in touch with the corporate world. As you mentioned, commercial is great, and everybody sort of touts commercial as the bread and butter. I call corporate narration the silent partner of VO. um, because there's a
Mhm.
lot of money out there, and it's quiet and it's not sexy. And a lot of people aren't like, oh, great, you did an e-learning module. That's really nice. But, it's steady, it pays well. I get great clients. And I'm in touch with what they're looking for because I work in what they do. And a lot of the companies that I book with are tech companies, and working with engineers every day, talking about databases and AWS and all of that. Like,
Yes, all the
you
acronyms,
know,
girl.
all
All
the
the
acronyms. I
acronyms.
love my UX people, and as a product manager, I sort of like, well, I'm technically a product owner, but I'm at the intersection of all of that. So that's what I enjoy, and I'm able to apply that to voiceover, having that knowledge and that worldview. As far as like Black women, I totally agree. It's not very, it's getting better, and my company is amazing. They're very focused on diversity, and I really appreciate not just for race and gender, and sexual orientation, all those things, but it is, not as common to see Black women, particularly in tech, and specifically when you get to higher levels, in the hierarchy of a company.
Hmm.
So, it has been it's been a challenge. It's been something to I mean, I don't necessarily think of myself like I'm carrying all the Black women on my back, but I find my tribe. There have been a couple of Black women in tech groups that have been great to be able to bounce ideas back off of. But yeah, it's something that we're just not as exposed to, not necessarily as encouraged to go after. We could talk about, the generational impacts of, where maybe if your family's always been worried about keeping the lights on, then it's a little harder just to go learn about science and coding, because you're in survival mode.
Hmm.
And that passes down through generations. So I definitely think that it's a problem. But yeah, I love seeing more Black women in tech, more STEM fields in general. So I hope it continues to grow.
Yeah, and that's why I've been, preaching this sermon all year
Yeah.
about people that want to come into VO, and they're kind of like, maybe they're feeling bad because perhaps they have aspirations to like do this all the time, do it full time. And I did too. And then something happened, something clicked in me last year, and I was kind of like, you know what, I really do love this, but it's okay for me to love more than one thing. It's okay for
Yes.
me to be good at more than one thing. And just
Yep.
like you just described, you know, they can complement each other.
Yeah.
Having that background in STEM or whatever your field is, can inform a lot of things that you do. Maybe you have a background in healthcare. I mean, we're never not going to talk about healthcare in commercials and e-learning and narration. Like, it's always going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Same thing for automotive, like lots of fields, so don't ever feel bad about, where you came from, or feel like you're not really a voice actor unless you do it full time. Like, that's BS. Like, that's
Yeah.
just, normally I cuss. I'm going to be good today.
I was
Um,
gonna say I'm really trying not to curse because I'm a potty mouth girl. I just feel like it's actually been there've been studies because I told you I'm a nerd.
yeah.
About the people that curse are actually very intelligent.
Well, listen, that's
So I'll be
that's
good.
poopy hogwash, okay?
Poopy hogwash. Yes.
So I just, so if you ever feel that way, come back and listen to us. Like, we are
Yeah.
proof that you can do it all. And if you do, have you could still have the aspirations to be full time, but just don't poo poo the journey of getting there and what you have to do. Like, I just started a new position a couple of months ago in UX, and I really like it. But the thing is, it's not like, I think that there's voice stuff involved. We talk about AI and voiceover. We talk about the conversation design, which is basically like, what is the backbone of your Google Home and your Alexa and Siri and things like that. And it's like, there's so many ways that our worlds just weave with
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, I'm with you, Dorita. I'm just like talk to me because I know that not even just with voiceover, but sort of I've found always this underlying narrative for anyone that's in the creative arts that's like, or even entrepreneurship in general, that if you're not only doing that, then you're not serious or you're not committed, or, like there's this sort of like this unspoken law that if you do just that one thing, then that means that you are all in. And that's when you're serious about it. And I call poopy crap. Because like it said, it informs your art better because you have a world experience to pull from. And having that sort of freedom in your mind allows you to ideate better at work as well. So
Mhm.
the company will benefit. And like you said, I've said before, you don't have to have just one dream. We have a whole life to live here. Why do you have to just pick one thing to do? Um, and, with the pandemic, now that I work full time from home, I do so much voiceover that I actually say that I am full time voiceover. Um,
Mhm.
and, in addition to having a full time job, and I'm blessed that I've been able to do both things. I work a lot, but it is not impossible. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't like anybody kind of telling somebody that they're not serious about or they don't care about something, or maybe you just want to be part time. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're not serious. Yeah, just do what you want to do with your life, man. Don't let anybody tell you that
I
you're
think
not
that there's
serious.
seasons, there's
Yeah.
seasons of things. you have two boys, so you totally understand this. There's seasons of time where you might not be able to do this thing and pursue it with the complete gusto as someone else
Yeah.
because of other family obligations or whatever. It doesn't even have to be children. It could
Yeah.
be, I had a husband that was very ill, but my daughter was much older. She was a teenager. So it's like it doesn't have to be a child per se, but just different obligations that you have. And so
Yeah.
you have to kind of temper your schedule with what season of life are you in. Maybe you only have the capacity to do this much. Maybe you can't focus on animation and commercial and
Yeah.
narration and all these things. Maybe you can only do one. Maybe you can
Yeah.
only do one of those right now along with your job. Or
Yeah.
maybe you can only work this much, or only, maybe you only have one agent or one roster, or you're only doing one online casting site, whatever it is. Like, everybody again has their own way of getting there, wherever there is for them, to that
Yeah.
goal. So you have to understand that life happens and that there's going to be different seasons that are just going to mandate that your focus takes you away from certain areas. Last year I made a killing in VO, a killing. I think a lot of us did, because it was cool to be black. you know it
Yeah.
was in all of a sudden, we were like in vogue.
Yeah.
So I made a freaking killing. But then, like, this year, and I still have been doing great. It's June and I'm still doing great, but I'm doing great without having the time to market myself. Last year, I was all in marketing myself, sending like 30, 40, 50 emails a day,
Yeah.
just, being super persistent. And this year, it hasn't been that way because I was pursuing a new job.
Right.
And so it's like there's all different kinds of reasons why you may or may not be able to give it your full focus, but that doesn't mean, like you said, that you're not serious or that you don't care.
Yeah. Or even the desire. Because, if you have that desire, like you really love UX, why should you deny yourself that because you want to also do voiceover? You can say, all right, well, I want to do this and this. So just like money, you just have to budget your time and you won't be able to give all of your time to this one thing because you also want to do this thing. And that is okay. Like this is the age of just respecting people's preferences and choices and the way that they want to live their life, whether that is in career or, your sexual orientation or just, where you want to live. I mean, it just, who cares? Like, let people live their lives. And if that means that you want to do a little voiceover and you want to do a little corporate work, I mean, like, why not?
Yeah, that's right. What have been some of your challenges specifically when it comes to your voiceover career thus far?
Oh, boy. Um, it's just such a learning curve and such like a constant learning process. Um, which I also enjoy, but it can be a challenge too. I remember, um, when the pandemic really kind of ramped up, and I understood that my audio was not really up to par for voiceover. It was okay, but it was like, okay. So like, I destroyed a closet like everybody does. I just remember sort of like taking a class and be like, oh crap, that's what I need to do. And, like standing up on chairs and nails and it looks horrendous, but it worked. So like just sort of the constant learning. Um, I remember that there was a point maybe a couple months ago. I mean, I was just taking class after class after class. So I had to get better about balancing, self-care, with the ambition, because the learning just never stops in voiceover, never. Like I said, the landscape keeps changing because advertising changes with the times, learning the tech, and then the auditions, are constantly coming. So
Yeah.
it's just being able to balance that with to the point that you don't burn out, that you still have a life, seeing your family and doing things that bring you joy beyond just work. That's probably been the biggest challenge for me.
So what do you do? Like, how do you balance your multifaceted career, the corporate, being the product manager, doing the voiceover and the creative things,
Yeah.
with your family life, because, they need you too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say too, I want to give credit. I don't necessarily consider myself a single mother anymore because now, I have my partner, we live together and he is just amazing and really helps with them. So even though, they're not his biological children. I don't feel like I really wear that badge anymore. I did for a while. But he helps a lot. And then my kids are teenagers, so that helps too. But it's like, yeah, go order yourself something from DoorDash. Like
Exactly.
I love it.
And drive to go get it yourself.
Oh man, yeah, that's coming. We don't have the license yet, but yeah.
Okay.
It's coming. But I think that what has helped me, and literally this is still like a work in progress and I'm getting better, but I really do try to set better boundaries for myself. I don't necessarily cut off at 5 o'clock. I try to somewhere around 5. Trying to actually get back into like my exercise routine that fell apart with COVID too. That helps. And come like 7 or 8, like I try to be like, all right, this is kind of a hard cut. Like I need to cut it off, go check in with the family, check in with everybody, make sure you're okay, have individual conversations, even if they're 5 minutes, just to establish and maintain that connection. On an individual level, I do little things for myself, like massages, which, for us, when you are a voice actor and a performer, you are using your body, not just your voice. So I write that off. And especially
Oh.
like when I was a stage performer too, I mean, literally, like I've had injuries, from because I was dancing and being on stage. I mean, I use my body. They call, I've heard us called referred to more than once as vocal athletes. Massages are known for actually helping to loosen up the body. I get chiropractic care, and my old chiropractor actually told me how that could help my voice. It's all connected. So, I really do try to focus on taking care of my body, drinking a ton of water. Yeah, God, what else do I do? I it really like setting boundaries helps too, to also let the family know, like, I'm not available right now. I'm working, so that if I work now, we can have our family time later. Um, yeah, those are some of the things I do, but I'm really trying to be better about self-care because you can't pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes. But
Yeah,
it's
it,
true.
it, it got really, really cool to talk about self-care last year, which I understand, but we need it all the time. Like,
Yeah.
as the world opens back up, we have to remember that, like, maybe that was a fluke or whatever last year, but the lessons that we learned last year in 2020
Mm,
should not be forgotten,
mhm.
about connecting with people and relationships, and your relationship with yourself is included
Oh, yeah.
in when I say relationships. And I know already, like I had like the word written down, like ask her about the boundaries, because I know I asked you a question about something and I'm just asking and you're like, well, I could talk to you, but I don't really be talking about business on the weekend. And I totally respect that. I totally get it. No, because
Oh, man.
otherwise it's just like, when do you turn it off? Because this is a
Yeah.
VO is a global thing, and it's like nonstop. So even though me and you are in the same time zone, your clients could be anywhere. And
Yes.
so you might, like, your 7 p.m. could be someone else's 1 p.m.
Yeah.
or maybe some people just don't sleep and it's midnight and they're emailing you. Like, let me just gonna give you a quick tip. Um, if you don't do anything else, okay, any job you have, I don't care if it's VO or not, um, you don't have to respond to every text and every email the
Yes.
minute that you get it. You can schedule that junk to go out whenever you want. There's
Yep.
like free services. You don't even have to pay for them. There are free services with Gmail and the other ones. And
Yes.
you can decide when to respond. And if you want to respond right away and just not send it, because with these boundaries, especially in our working lives, you are teaching people how to treat you. You're
Amen.
you're teaching
Yes.
people. You're
Yes.
teaching people, like, I'm available all the time or not. I had a session a week ago, and we did it, and it only took 15 minutes. It was super easy. But what happened was, a few days later, I got an email saying, "Hey, dude forgot to do the alts. So can you just, like, go and, like, just bang this out real quick?" The answer is yes, I could have. I could have just taken 5 minutes and just done it,
Right.
but I had a lot of other stuff going on. And I was like, I could just do this and get it over with. But if I continue to work with these people, because this is not the first time I've worked with them, if I
Right.
continue to work with these people, then they're going to think that whenever they have an emergency,
Yeah.
quote, I'm putting air quotes if you can't see me, if they have an emergency or if they have an issue or whatever, maybe they can expect their other talents to drop what they're doing, but I'm not going to. And then like
Yeah.
they're emailing me back and forth, well, are you not in the studio today or what? And I'm just like, I will be available tomorrow at 10
Yeah.
a.m. Eastern time,
Yeah.
and then I can do it. And what
Yeah.
happened is they said, okay. And I also asked for money for it. I said, this is going to take up some more of my time. So I need, another
Absolutely.
fee.
Yep.
And I got it.
Yep.
And they met me the next day at 10 a.m. And I kid you not, Source Connect session was 5 minutes. We just
Yeah.
banged out the alts and that was it.
Yeah.
But the point is not whether it takes 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 2 hours.
Yes.
That is not the
Yes.
point. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Erikka, you and I were on the phone recently and we was talking about something really similar to this. It's not even a question that I had, but it just came to me. We always talk in Facebook and Clubhouse and elsewhere about how sometimes clients say, oh, can't you record this for me for this much? It's only going to take you a few minutes. It's only like, 22 words, And what do you say to that when people ask you that?
Well, as you basically just stated, it is not about the time in the booth. It is about so much more. It is the investment in the equipment. It is the investment in the training to learn how to use that equipment. It's the training to be able to step in here and convey an emotion and a message for you in those 5 minutes, or in 30 seconds if you're doing a spot for a commercial. It is about the draw on your energy. And that's what I was thinking about when you were saying the 5 minute thing. Um, have I been like, I'm watching TV, I'm not doing anything, I can hop in here and give this to them for 5 minutes? Yeah, but that had to be a choice for me. Um, have I also been like, I'll get to that tomorrow? Yes, because I need that because I'm still a human. And in order to give you my best, I have to be at my best. And all of that factors into the pay. I'm giving you not just my time and my knowledge, but I'm giving you my energy. And that is time, knowledge, and energy that now there's an opportunity cost that I'm not giving that to someone else. So that has to be paid for. They have to be
Mhm.
compensated for that. And I do have session minimums that I communicate to my clients. I have pickup rates. If we're long term or bulk rate project, obviously there's always negotiations to be made within reason. Um, but yeah, that you have to sort of set that boundary for yourself and if a client really is having something like a real emergency and I'm not out or with my family or doing something, yeah, I do want to be available for my clients as much as possible, but I have to take care of myself or they
Mhm.
will not get the best Erikka J, and that's what they're paying for.
Mhm. Right.
I want them to get what they're paying for.
Right. Absolutely. And like you have a reputation as well. Like this is a part, I feel like these boundaries are part of just being a professional.
Yeah.
The expectations that you set at the beginning, whether it's rates or time or whatever, like that sets the precedent, that sets the flow
Yeah.
for, and not to say that it can't ever change because it totally can, but
Right.
you have to be assertive about it and you have to understand what's at play. I do not like infer with what I just explained. I do not infer that people are just out to waste my time or that they're out to inconvenience me. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
try to think the best of people, whether it's my clients or people that ask me for advice or whatever. I try to think the best of people, but I am not going to let myself, be taken advantage of either. So,
That's right. Yeah. And especially in the creative arts, that's sort of been like historic that it's easy for people to devalue that some, or again, just see it as, oh, well, you're just talking, and there's just so much more that goes into
yeah,
it.
we're acting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And boy, it pulls a lot out of you to act. I generally do not get on the mic before 9 o'clock.
I've been doing voiceovers now for a few years, but I actually sat on this idea for over 10 years. 10 years of thinking about it, wondering, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I don't know how to break in. What do? I don't know anybody that does that. All these different doubts and doing Google searches and coming up with way too much information and not knowing where to start. So it's time for me to pay it forward, and I thought I would help others who keep asking me and DMing me, how do I get started? If you want to share your voice with the world and you're interested in starting a voiceover career or just trying to understand what it takes to get started, I can help you. I created a free resource guide that has links to courses, training, blogs, Facebook groups, and tons of things that'll give you good information to get started and not overwhelm you. These are resources that I've curated myself, and they've served me well as I've started on this journey. Want yours? Sign up and get yours free at bit.ly/Doree voiceover resource. bit.ly/Doree voiceover resource. If you already know this is something you want to do, you can just go straight to the e-course at bit.ly/vocality-e-course.
If I have like an early morning audition, and I've started to do this, like if I get auditions that are coming in like late at night and they're for the next morning, if I am not currently with my family, I'll try to like do the recording that day, because like I feel like in the morning I have to kind of have like my grounding, you know what I mean? And because you're giving energy, it's like being around people. So you have to kind of be at your best to really be able to perform that at your best. Yeah, and that definitely factors in.
Personally, I sound like a man before 10 a.m. So I am
Hey,
not mad. I don't care how much throat coat I'm drinking. It's just not going to work before 10 a.m. It's just
sometimes
not.
that works. I've had spots where I was specifically like, I'm recording that in the morning before I drink any water. You know what I mean? So I can be like, give him that Viola Davis,
Yeah, you guys know you be putting them specs in there. Y'all want everybody to sound the same. Look, Erikka, I have one last question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
What advice would you give to someone, or have you given to someone who wants to either start doing voiceover full time or is trying to, figure out how to get in while they're doing their regular 9 to 5 job or whatever type of job they have?
Yeah. Um, I think for one is, how do we really define full time, right? Um, if you're making enough to make the money that you want to make, I don't think it really matters if you're part or full time. I think that's a vanity metric, if you will, Um, so as long as if you are doing voiceover and you are enjoying it and you are getting the level of success that you want, then cool. Um, if you want to up your game, or level up and get into higher paying or more high profile type stuff, it almost always boils down to the training. um, I recommend to people that if you're just starting out and trying to figure things out, for one, there is so much free information on the internet. And for me, it was like there was so much that it was almost like I don't know what's real and what's not. So it's like analysis paralysis, like I don't even know what to read here. But
Mhm.
seeking out the groups where the pros are. Clubhouse is amazing. Facebook groups are great. I always point people to Jamie Moffat's podcast, VO School. There are like 55 episodes. They are free on SoundCloud, and I know he's a bunch of other places. Jamie's just a good guy. He's not giving me anything. I'm just, that's what I did in the pandemic, because there are so many different genres and topics and people to learn from for free. So if you're following pros and listening to what they're saying and getting that information for free, please start there, because you may get into it and just be like, you know what? I'm good. This is cool, but not for me. And maybe you haven't spent a dime on a microphone yet. And that's the best thing, is to not have made that investment. Deciding, like, there's conversations about pay to plays, and, not just leaning on what one person said, but, exploring and making your own decision and getting all the data to be able to do that. Um, so that's the biggest thing, is just leverage the free information. Check out the conferences. You just got to keep learn, do workshops, so that, you're not investing 150 hours for a private coaching session one-on-one, and you're not even sure if this is something that you want to do. Workouts can be as cheap as like $25. Some are free. So doing also, like, knowing your niche, knowing where to start. Like I said, a lot of people, I do feel like commercial is sort of the foundation for everything. And even like corporate narration. I was talking to somebody about this today. they really want you to not sound corporate anymore. So, commercial training really helps with that, but you got to know what you're going after. A lot of people love animation and have wanted to do it forever, and it's just about making funny voices is what they think, but there's so much more to it, right? So you have to sort of explore and understand the industry and the genres and advertising, and understanding that this is art, but it is also business and commerce. And that is what you're doing with most of voiceover, is helping to sell a product or educate on an idea that's going to make somebody money or save somebody, some money from getting a lawsuit, like e-learning, things like that. So you've just got to learn, man. And that's where you have to invest your time. And yeah, you may make some money, but once you do that, you will see exponential growth, and the time that you invest will be more fruitful if you do that learning up front.
Awesome. That was a whole lot right there. We're gonna put some other resources in the show notes. I have some resources as well.
Yeah.
And to close out, please tell everyone where they can find you if they want to reach out, they want to hear your work, or just, follow you on the socials.
Yeah. I am Erikka J, ERIKKAJ.com. Also EJ Voiceover, because I've been working in technology too long and I have redirects. So, because people always forget my 2Ks. So EJ Voiceover, you can find me there. On all the socials, I'm Miss Erikka J. But you can also see those links on my website. And yeah, that's it. I'm everywhere.
Awesome. And I'm going to link to all that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Erikka, for talking to me today. It was a pleasure. It went by really fast, like it always does.
It's always a good time talking to good people. Thank you, Doree, for having me.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, this is it for season 6. And, please comment. Let me and Erikka know what you think about this episode, what other questions you might have. ErikkaJ.com. Is that what you said?
You got it. Yep. Or EJ Voiceover.
Whatever the redirect. And kickingitwithdoree.com. There's no G, because I'm keeping that slang completely,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So take care and hit us up.
All right. Thanks, Doree.
Thank you for kicking it with me today on the Kicking It with Doree